It is June 1967, and once again the spiritual life of Jerusalem has been shattered by the Six-Day War. To the south, Israeli troops are driving the Egyptians from the Sinai. To the north, they're forcing the Syrians off the Golan Heights. In Jerusalem, they've broken through Jordanian positions to attack the old city from its less defended eastern side. Everywhere, the Jewish state is victorious. But nowhere is victory sweeter than in the recapture of the ancient capital of the Jews, the city of King David. Today, the Lion Gate provides access for more mundane traffic between the Mount of Olives and the Muslim quarter of the old city. There's little sign now of the time Israeli paratroopers came this way with single-minded determination. On that 7th day of June in 1967, there was one principal objective that had little to do with military matters. An ancient wall of massive stones, hardly a prize to tempt many conquerors. But to the victorious Israelis, who came here as fast as they could, this wall meant riches beyond measure. For 19 years, since the division of Jerusalem in 1948, the wall had been forbidden to all Jews. Now suddenly it was theirs, and the scrolls of the Torah could once more be paraded before its sacred stones. Since then, the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall as Gentiles have called it, has been firmly re-established as one of the Holy City's holiest places. Its attraction lies not in lavish design, but in memories that held a widely dispersed people together through centuries of exile. At first light, the forecourt is crowded with the faithful, people like Rabbi Shmuel Gore, who came from Australia to make his home in the capital of his ancestors.
Well, for me to go to the Western Wall to pray, it's a spiritual event. The wall itself is the remnant of the once great Temple of Jerusalem, which today we call the place where it stood the Temple Mount. And the Western Wall is the only physical aspect which is left of the original glory of the temple. When the Jewish people went out into the diaspora, into exile, according to Jewish tradition, the Almighty accompanied them out into the diaspora as a sign that he is with them and that he has not permanently forsaken them. And hence, we are told further that the wall itself never lost the divine presence at any time till today. And because of this, it became hallowed over the centuries. And as it was the only physical aspect that was left over of the whole mount, Jewish pilgrims coming over the thousands of years since the destruction thereof, they got to the Temple Mount and all they could see was the wall. Hence it became the focal spot for all Jewry of the world. So even a non-religious Jew still sees in the actual Western Wall his focal point of his aspirations for Jewry as a nation.
For religious Jews, preparation for morning prayer is elaborate and meticulous. Much of the ritual is based on the laws revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai and forms a living link with temple practice of 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Gore belongs to a group of Hasidic Jews who wear a prayer belt to symbolically cut off the upper part of the body, the more disciplined section, from the less spiritually aware lower regions. The long shawls the men drape over their heads for morning prayers aren't mentioned among God's commandments to Moses. but there is an instruction about wearing fringes on square-cut garments. The fringes and knots on the prayer shawl represent the total number of the commandments, 613 in all, and they have to be checked before prayers begin. Before donning his shawl, Rabbi Gore throws it over his head for an initial blessing to symbolize the presence of God enveloping the world. The phylactery, a unique aid to morning prayer, is closely based on biblical authority. It's made to precise instructions of leather from ritually slaughtered animals. And it contains texts from the Torah to remind worshippers of their duty to the law. One comes from the book of Exodus. And it shall be a sign unto thee upon thy hand, and for a memorial between thine eyes, that the Lord's law may be in thy mouth. One phylactery is worn on the arm to be pressed against the heart, the seat of emotion. The strap is made to form the Hebrew letter Shin, which appears in one of the names of God. Then it's wrapped 7 times around the forearm, 7 being the number of the days of the week and a symbol of completion. A second phylactery of different design goes precisely between the eyes on the hairline of the forehead. This holds the same texts against the symbolic seat of the intellect. A final adjustment of the arm strap forms another Hebrew letter representing a name of God in the palm of the hand. Rituals like this have been a common bond between Jews from countries as far apart as Australia and the Yemen. They've helped remind a far-flung people of the great unifying symbol of their nation, the temple. When Rabbi Gore goes to pray at the wall for the main part of his morning devotions, he recites the ritual 18 blessings, which include a prayer for the speedy reconstruction of the temple. Other ruins of antiquity may inspire little more than academic interest or passing curiosity. But this repository of prayers and petitions is charged with emotion, a reminder of the greatness of the past and an inspiration for the hopes of the future.
During the Six-Day War in 1967, when the Jewish forces liberated the old city, there was a great excitement, a spiritual thrill went through all the Jewish people, especially locally in Jerusalem, around the world. And once and for all, after all these years, centuries, 2,000 years, the old city was in our hands, and the Western Wall became once again under Jewish sovereignty. Thousands just start teaming down. The word got out, and within an hour or two, there was literally tens of thousands of people squeezing into this little miniature alleyway the remnant of what was permitted by the Turks to get to the Western Wall. The wall just meant that much, not just limited to specifically religious. It was spiritual, it was national, it was the complete aspiration of the Jewish people.
Jewish Jerusalem was established by King David 1,000 years before Christ as a neutral capital for the 12 tribes. The original site just south of the present city walls is the official City of David and a place of great archaeological interest.
From this spot we can see the earliest part of Jerusalem as the City of David area. The place where the city of the Canaanites and the city of the Israelites existed and now being exposed by the archaeologists. On the lower part of the valley, down on the lower part of the slope, one can see the spring of the Gihon, where everything started sometime at the beginning of the 3rd millennium BC. And we can have a look from here along the eastern slope, and one can see the fortification line, which is along the eastern slope, and behind it, above it, we can see the different buildings that were excavated in different areas of the City of David archaeological project. If one wants to see how the city was look like at the biblical period, you can just look to the other side of the valley, to the village of Siloam of today, and see there how the buildings are built, one on top of the other, in kind of a mountainary system. And this is almost exactly the picture how the city of David from the Canaanite and the Israelite period was look like at the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st millennium BC. We are looking now on part of Area G in the City of David excavations. Area G is one of 12 areas of excavations that we have along this mound. And in this side, in these 12 areas, we are exposing more than 3,000 years of civilization in Jerusalem, from the 4th millennium BC to the medieval period.
Delving into the past is one way of fortifying historic claims to Jerusalem. For 7 seasons, students from all over the world have helped Dr. Shiloh and his staff uncover more evidence of David's city.
And in this area we have a good example about what happened in the City of David once you cut through the debris and the fields on the top of the mound and you come and expose the earlier remains. Here, although it looked to you very complicated, a cocktail of walls and pillars and stones and debris, we have 4 major levels or stories of the history of Jerusalem from the Canaanite to the Roman period of Jerusalem. On the top we have the square tower and the fortification line from the city of the Hellenistic and the Roman period, the city that was destroyed at 70 AD by the Romans. Below it one can see the stepstone structure which goes all the way from bottom here to the top, more than 18 meters in height, which was part of the substructure of the citadel of Jerusalem at the time of the Israelite kings since David and Solomon. And it covers the same citadel, it covers an earlier citadel down there with this kind of terrace wall and a stone field which is from the Canaanite period, around 13th, 14th century BC. The same citadel and city that was taken later on, 1000 BC, by David when he conquered Jerusalem.
With divine guidance, David chose the site of the temple, the place where Islam's holy Dome of the Rock now stands. Over succeeding centuries, the temple became inseparable from the fortunes of the Jewish people. The massive stone walls that can be seen today are the remains of the Second Temple, magnificently restored by Herod the Great, shortly before the time of Christ. The Second Temple replaced the original house of God built by David's successor, King Solomon. When both were destroyed in conflicts with powerful enemies, the Jews were banished from their city. The second destruction in 70 AD signaled an exile that virtually lasted until modern times. The Romans did their best to remove all Jewish influence from Jerusalem, but the Jews never forgot their temple. Indeed, their devotion has remained so strong that it seems surprising no attempt has been made to take back the Temple Mount now that Jewish authority has been restored. Fortunately for the peace of Jerusalem, religious law decrees that no Jew can achieve the state of purity required to enter the temple precinct until the temple itself is rebuilt. But the temple will be restored. Of this the Jews are certain. One day the Messiah will enter the holy city to construct the third and final temple.
According to Jewish tradition, the Messiah is going to start in the north of Palestine, in the Galilee, and he's going to come down to Jerusalem and enter through what we call today the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate is situated directly opposite the Mount of Olives. The Muslim religion apparently knows the same tradition and possibly have the same tradition. But to try and stop the Jewish Messiah entering Jerusalem, they naively presumed him to be a priest, and they built a cemetery directly cutting over the entrance to the old city through the Golden Gate. They blocked it up with stones, which is still today closed, and they thought thereby that if the Jewish Messiah is a priest, he won't be able to enter. Unfortunately, in their ignorance, they did not realize that he was of a descendant of King David, who went back to the tribe of Judah, and only the priests are forbidden to go through a cemetery. Any other Jew, there's nothing wrong with him entering a cemetery. Hence, their carefully thought out plan is very incorrect, and the Jewish Messiah will be able to get through the Golden Gate of the old city of Jerusalem.
Few would deny, least of all the Jews themselves, that they are a singular people. They gave the world the concept of a single omnipotent God, and they preserved their nation when the entire infrastructure of nationhood had been torn away. With their temple ruined and their lands lost, they turned to words and ideas. Teachers and scholars became their leaders and evolved a comprehensive commentary on the great mass of law that God had given to Moses. This became the Talmud, and it provides Jews everywhere with a code to govern all aspects of their lives. Study of the Talmud is an essential part of a religious Jew's life. But Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, the head of the Institute of Talmudic Publications in Jerusalem, is doing much more than that. He's engaged in a complete translation into modern Hebrew, together with his own commentary on every passage, a task that no one has undertaken for around 900 years. The Talmud's encyclopedic range is daunting. Nothing, not even the conjugal duties of men in different occupations, seems to escape its attention. But at least Rabbi Steinsaltz has a word processor, one aid denied to the sages of old.
The Talmud is the most essential book for our people. So essential that in a way I would call it the spiritual backbone of our people. On the other hand, it is very much of an in-book, meaning you have to be inside to understand anything. It is not a book that is written in the form of a textbook that it is easy to get into. In a way, it is, even though it is written and explained, it still remains some kind of a secret.
While Rabbi Steinsaltz works on the literature of the past, others are seeing to stones and mortar. Rothschild House, one of the few buildings to survive Jordanian control of the Jewish quarter, is now the office of Amos Unger, who directs a massive rebuilding program. Reconstruction in this part of the old city has revealed much evidence of the past, long-lost Byzantine churches and houses from Herod's Jerusalem. This discovery, the so-called burnt house, is from an area that was part of the wealthy upper city in the final years of the Second Temple. Perhaps the fire damage found here was the result of the terrible devastation inflicted upon the city by the armies of Rome.
Actually, what we are seeing here, it's the basement. It's the first level of 3 levels house. And we see here 4 rooms, but it was much larger, but we could not preserve the other rooms as well. And today, we have also a building with few levels, and this is the first one, and the upper levels are modern apartments of the 20th century.
The Jewish quarter was taken by the Arabs during the Israeli War of Independence in 1948. Much damage was done to synagogues and private houses, and for many years the quarter was little more than wasteland. Now it's being rebuilt in style, and ironically, Arab workers are assisting Israeli determination to re-establish the Jewish character of this section of the old city. Arabs who once lived here have been paid compensation and moved to new homes. For political as well as sentimental reasons, the Jews have again their place in Old Jerusalem.
I would like to emphasize that the Jewish quarter is, first of all, a residential neighborhood. But in the same time, it's a place that, because of those findings, many people, millions of people from all over the world are coming to see and visit. And to try to find the coexistence between these 2 different purposes, residential neighborhood on the one hand, a tourist attraction on the other hand, this was our job. And today we are close to the end of the job, and we have 600 apartments. We have about 4,000 people living in it. But at the same time, we have many, dozens of archaeological excavations, historical monuments, historical places that one can visit and go from one to another, following the events of history for almost 3,000 years.
So past defeats and modern triumphs compete for attention in the reborn Jewish quarter. The stone columns of the Roman city now bear mute witness to the mastery of the people the Romans tried to remove for all time from this city. A wall built just after the Babylonian exile is encompassed by smart new apartments, the homes of distant descendants of those who were banished. It's all a great change, even from a century ago, when visitors complained of the reeking alleys and putrid filth of the Jewish quarter. Today, the area proclaims the fact that, having at last come home, the Jews are determined to stay.